Father God, I just thank you for today. I thank you for your power. I thank you for your word, your grace, and your mercy. I pray right now that you will be in the midst of us on today as we learn and grow in you. I pray that you will be glorified in all that we say and do. Lord, I ask that your spirit will dwell with us as we have conversation, as iron sharpens iron, as we glean and learn from one another. I thank you for the opportunity for fellowship. I thank you for the opportunity of knowledge and wisdom that we're able to get one from another. Keep us as a unit, as a whole, as a kingdom, that we will be glorifying to you in all that we say, we think, and we do. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so in our seed journal, in our book, we are on page 29, session number 7. And I'm super excited about this lesson and just how it builds on to what we learned last month and how it brings us to a place of accountability, as it brings us to a place of self-reflection and knowing who we are. And so before we start, I want to know who's in the room with me as we go forward. So session 7 is fighting the negative isms, addressing racism, sexism, ageism, and other forms of prejudice and discriminations. And so this month, we have 5 weeks that we're going to spend together on this lesson. Of course, we're going to break it up. We're going to dig deep into it. But for us to grow, it has to be a level of self-reflection, and that's what we're going to deal with today. And so as we go into this lesson, I'm just going to ask for all of you to be honest, to be open, and to put in the work. And so can you commit to doing that? If we do that, we're going to see ourselves different come August 1st. And as I began to study this lesson, I said, God is so strategic. And in the upper room, we've really been talking about how strategic he is and what he does. This is the very topic that God has placed me in a career to teach. And so then to have me be able to do it in the kingdom, and the whole time I'm at work, most of the time I'm like, oh, I would love to do this at church. I would love to do this at church. I would love to do this at church. And he gave me the opportunity to do it at church. And so it's amazing. So anyway, so before we go further, I have a question I want to ask the group. And this is going to be a little interaction. We in here together, learning and growing together. And so I'm going to ask you a question, couple questions, a series of questions, and we just get our mojo going. We wake up a little bit. So I'm just going to ask, if your answer is yes, you stand up. If your answer is no, you remain seated. All right? So I'm asked a couple questions. If your answer to the question is yes, I'm going to ask for you to stand up. If the answer to the question is no, you just remain seated. Okay? So, as we are fighting the negative isms, addressing racism, sexism, ageism, and other forms of prejudice and discrimination, how many people in this room are prejudiced? Are you prejudiced? If so, stand up. If you are prejudiced, stand up. If the answer is yes, stand up. We haven't got there first yet. So you going a little bit before me. But if you are prejudiced, I'm going to ask for you to stand up. All right. So the ones that are sitting down are saying no. All right, thank you all for standing. Everybody can take their seat. Everyone in the room should have stood. We are all prejudiced, myself included. And so we're going to go to the first definition. Prejudice, words to know. So we're going to spend some time today really setting a foundation, really growing to a place of understanding to bring us out of our warped mindset. And so when we leave July, my prayer is that we will have a different perspective on it, and we will be able to recognize who we are and where we are, where we've came from, and where we're going. Okay? So prejudice, as the definition, Sister Downs wanted to know before she voted, before she answered. All right, so the definition of prejudice is a judgment or opinion formed without facts. Okay? And so with that, we do this. And so I want to go back up to the title really quick. And if you have your book, I want you to write after the title, after the word discriminations in the church. And so for July, what we're going to do is we're going to fight the negative isms, addressing racism, sexism, ageism, and other forms of prejudice and discriminations in the church. And that's where we're going to spend our time doing for the month. And so we have a prejudice. And I know even some of the people sitting down is like, no, I'm really not. And so I want to give us some practical examples of things that we do. And sometimes we don't see it like that because we call it minute. So have you ever went into a place that has food and you looked at this food and you said, that looks disgusting. Or you look, or you enter in and say, that smells horrible. You know, or it's, I don't eat that. Very little. You haven't tasted it yet. You don't even know what it's called. You don't know nothing about it, but you formed an opinion without the facts. So that's just a very minute thing of judgment. I think about, or prejudice. I think about the church. And so before I transition there, I said I wanted to give this disclaimer, and I was wanting to be intentional about it. As we go through July, and if Sister Portia offends you through this message or through this lesson, I'm really going to ask that you exercise your power of liberty and come directly to me, and let's talk about it. Because as we go through this lesson, it's going to hit home for a couple people. It's going to bring that self-reflection. It might bring that level of offense, but if we're honest with each other, and I'm encouraging you all, if I do, please come to me and say, hey, this is what happened this day, and I would like to talk about it with you, Sister Portia. Because this lesson is going to open up some heart wounds. It's going to open up some mindsets. It's going to open up some things that live in our subconscious. And so we're going to really deal with those things. So in the church, we do these things. And these are very small examples, but it's just so easy how we can move into a place of prejudice and don't recognize that we do it. And so as we deal with this lesson, what I teach and how I educate in my work field is we deal with unconscious and conscious. So the unconscious bias and the conscious bias. And we're going to bring that into this lesson and figure out how those fit with one another. But in the church, this is something that we might see. You see a hyperactive child, right? And they on 10. Right, and they going 100 miles an hour, and they cut up sometimes. They might have a little backlash. They got a little mouth on them. Your first thought say, it's because they ain't disciplining them at home. They need their bus whooped. They not doing. Immediately, we've entered into a prejudice. Really, if you went to go ask the person, they probably beat them every day. And it's like, even with that, it's not bringing the change that we thought we should see inside the sanctuary or inside the youth church or, some of those things. And so we enter ourselves into a place to judge. And so we're going to deal with the unconscious things, the things that we're not aware of, that's subsided in us as a culture. And then we're going to deal with the conscious things as we go through the things that we've conditioned ourselves to judge people based off of. So before we go there, I really was going through this lesson, and I think it's important for us to understand the definitions and understand the words to know, because if you don't know them, then we don't know what to do. And I love the season that we're in as a society and definitely as a kingdom, asking those questions. It was a lot of great questions today just in the Unto God meeting. If we don't know what TNT is, Brother Kevin, I think it's great that you asked that. How are we going to be unified? How are we going to be together if we don't even know what we're together on? And even for the vision, different things in the kingdom, how do we fight these things if we don't have education or understanding of them? And we've even been challenged to stop reading the word just to read the word. We read the word to bring an understanding, because that understanding is what brings change in our lives. So an unconscious bias. This is how we're going to break up the fight of these negative isms. Recognizing where we're unconsciously judging, and then recognizing when we're consciously judging. So an unconscious bias is the social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form outside of their own conscious awareness. And so we have them. Sister Kizzy said one of ours earlier, CP time. If you black, you're going to be late. People already know that. Because they're not in our group, they stereotyped us to that place. And I'll be honest, it's one of my biggest things to break. So I call myself the only chocolate chip at my job. And so I'm the only one there. I'm not showing up late to not one meeting. You're not going to be able to put that stereotype on me. I'm not. And I'm very cautious to do that, right? So this group of people have an unconscious bias that black people are late. They might not ever say it to me. They just going to say, we're going to have to wait for Portia. We'll wait 2 or 3 minutes to let Portia get here. Now, Portia going to be there 5 minutes before you get there, right? But cautiously, I'm making a point to be there 5 minutes before they get there, so they can't stereotype me, right? And so we find ourselves in this woe. Now, if I brought it up to my colleagues, they'd probably be like, I don't do that, I don't do that, you know? But you formed yourself in that. One, we adopt it, we say it. Oh, CP time, or we adhere to it. Oh, I'm going to be fashionably late. Or I'm going to wait. They ain't going to get there to this time anyway. Oh, the food won't be done until this time anyway. So then we begin to condition ourselves to fit the unconscious bias. That's an example, okay? So bring it back, and I'm giving us some natural examples, but I also want to deal with the things that's in the kingdom, right? That's in the church. It's happening in the church. We do that same thing concerning time. So we talked about the CP time. We do it in church. I don't want to participate in worship, so I'm going to come at 10:35. Because normally we sing 3 songs. Sister Trina's going to do a exhortation thing, and she do that about 10 minutes. So if I show up at 10:45, the word should be going forward. And then you hit the door and we still worship, and you like, what happened? What happened? And we condition ourselves to program ourselves on a time frame that's that, right? So we've even conditioned and prejudged Sister Trina's only going to exhort for 10 to 15 minutes. We've conditioned ourselves to think the choir's only going to sing 3 songs. They might choose one song and just sing it really long for a long time. You know, so we formed ourselves in that to where now we're going to decide our time. When we're going to come, what we're going to do, how we're going to do that. And that's that unconscious bias. It's those things that we're not aware of that we do, that lives internal, right? One of the examples I give at work in the natural is this dark alley. So if you're in this you're walking and it's a dark alley. It's a couple lights, they're flickering on and off, but the alley is the shortest way to get to your destination. Most of the time you walk that alley, it's safe, it's secure, you get to where you want to be. One particular night, you're going down this alley, and it's a guy there. And he's a couple feet taller than you. He has on black pants, black hoodie with the hood on. You know the alley is the shortest way to get to where your destination is. You've traveled this alley several times before this night. But this particular night, now this individual in this alley with this black pants, black hoodie with the hood over brings something into your mind, right? And so if we're honest right now and we think about the visual, what are some of the things that's coming to our minds? Thug, robbery, some type of harm. So I heard one. Afraid, fear. What's the weather? Sister Kathy is deep. That's a good question, Sister Kathy, right? And so in that, I love the question, and I get those questions in class all the time. But in that, that's the place that we want to grow to. So Sister Kathy, Sister Downs, I love you ladies both, because they're bringing us to a place of being aware of our unconsciousness, and now we evaluate that differently. And so we've put prejudice as such a negative thing, but we're going to talk about it in the kingdom, and it comes with that wisdom. And so that's where we're going to go to throughout the course of the month. It comes with the wisdom. So what's the weather? All those things. But at the end of this thing, all those things that we listed, fear, robbery, thug, that's our subconscious. It's unconscious that we think those things because black on black at night, it automatically comes to us. It's not wrong to think those things. And that's what I want to get us to a place. It's not wrong. But now we step back and think, I've done this alley so many times. Normally, nobody's in this alley but me taking a shortcut to my destination. Now, I'm going to evaluate the weather. And so we want to bring our unconscious to a conscious. And when we do that, we start operating as kingdom citizens in the wisdom. What's the weather? Is it 90 degrees in July with the hoodie? You know, even looking at the statue, one of the things I always shock them with, I say it really was a woman. So the hood covered up made us think it was a man. Take the thing off here, it was a woman. And so we began to tell ourselves those things. And how do we, as individuals, begin to be aware of where we have prejudice and then evaluate and couple those things with the wisdom of God that he's given us, right? It might be that we're supposed to still walk down this alley to witness to this person, right? It might be the fact that you need to go and walk by them to recognize it's a woman who's in duress that needs assistance from you. But kicking in the wisdom, he might say, turn around, go the other way, and take the long way today. Don't go down the alley. But I want us to understand that prejudice lives in all of us in some form, some fashion, but how do we address those thoughts? And as kingdom men and women, we should address them with the wisdom of God. We should address them with seeking his counsel on how to go forward with those things. And so that's where we want to go to, and that's how we're going to grow in this place. So let's go to some of the areas we're going to attack today, or this month. Racism, sexism, ageism. All right? So defining those things. Racism is a word to know. It's a program or practice of discrimination and persecution based on false theory of superiority of one people group over another. How many people will say racism is still alive today? It is. There are certain groups, though, I stand in front of, and they say no. And it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And in their heart, I think their answer is truly no. but they're suffering with those their unconscious biases, right? Because probably when I first walked in the room, they was like, "What is this black woman about to tell me? Oh, she's the facilitator? I didn't know I signed up for this." So those things begin, but they outwardly, they won't say it. They'll process those things internally. All right? And so that's what racism is. We're going to fight those things this month. Sexism, prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination, typically against women on the basis of sex. Everybody heard of sexism? All right, so we transitioned a couple years ago into the Me Too movement, right? And it was really to expose executives in corporate world of having women perform sexual acts to elevate up the hierarchy chain. But it got blown up because women wanted to have empowerment, not recognizing, though, we were already empowered before the Me Too movement. Brother Kevin?
A lot of times that corporate thing, what they did back then, I don't know what's going on now. Well, man, I got the same office, but he get paid more than her.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was wrong.
Yep.
That's excessive. I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same job, or even better at his job.
Mm-hmm.
You should get paid what he's getting paid.
Yeah.
But that went on for a long time.
It went on for a long time, right? But our empowerment was before that. But we allowed movement and things that we wasn't necessarily experiencing as a culture, as a woman, to buy into that. We were already empowered before the Me Too movement, but the exposure of that was happening. But what we did not exercise was the power we were given, which was our voice. It was a lot of times in situations, myself included, not in the workforce more so, but just in society, didn't think my voice would be heard. Our empowerment came from the freedom to vote. That's when the women became empowered. But then the Me Too movement set it on fire to where now women are putting themselves in positions to prove a point that they really don't want to fight or prove in that form of sexism. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be on the back of a garbage truck. I don't want to be on a football field. I don't want to be outside in 100-degree heat, jackhammering concrete. I don't want to do that. I don't want to body build. But now women are trying to find a way to use that to get over into this category to prove a point for something that they really don't even want. Brother Mark? Yeah.
So this weekend we had to hire a group of people to help us move furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So in this group, there were several women.
Mm-hmm.
We made it clear with the agency that we hired these people through the ramifications and the qualifications of the jobs. We gave them the safety, what they needed to do and be prepared for when they got to the school. So here's where it comes in. So it's 100 degrees. Matter of fact, it's like 80 degrees. They get there late, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, they're not prepared. And then number three, they subconsciously were looking for us to enable them to do their job while we paid them. That's not me. So we got to long story short, we got to the moving facility. We cracked the first one, it was packed full, and we had the U-Haul there, and it was 3 women. It was 3 women and 2 guys. So I'm the one that's paying them. So they immediately think that the guys are supposed to do the heavy stuff. So they stand back, and I'm like, no. I'm paying you an hourly wage, get in there and get it done. So they immediately said, well, we can't do it. And one of the ladies said, "Well, I'm a woman, and I don't think I can do it." And I told her, I said, I don't see gender right now. I see you as a laborer. So in order for you to get paid by me and my company, you need to work. If you can't, I'm gonna send you home. And I sent her home. So just to say that is, you know,
Yes.
sexism, it's not always about women, it's about men as well.
You are telling the truth, and I was going to get to that point, Brother Mark, and I agree. One of the things that you pointed out and confirmed is they're fighting for a position they don't really want. They don't want to be a mover of a company. Why are you working here? I'm not signing up for that. I don't want to be there. I don't want to move myself, let alone move somebody else. And that's what the corruption, and I brought that out to say it was a corruption. We were already empowered. We just needed to speak. We needed to use our voice. She used her voice when she didn't want to work. I'm a woman. We know that. We see you. But and now we're fighting fights that we really don't even want. You don't want to be on that dock in 90-degree temperature on a forklift, you don't want to do it for real. You want the pay that the Me Too movement got. And so I just wanted to bring that point out to say we're already empowered women. Speak. Just use your voice. It's there. If you are getting treated unjustly on the job, speak up against that individual. You don't have to succumb and be abused in that way. But to Brother Mark's point, one of the things I want to say is not just women that experience that, it's men too. And so we're looking for men to do certain things. We're downgrading. One of the biggest things we talk about a lot of times is the father. Society's trying to wipe out the father. Trying to wipe out the father role, but it's important. And so that's a form of sexism, right? These corporations, it's one of the things I'm personally fighting against is we don't treat the father equal to the mother in the life of the child, right? And so we're looking for mothers to enroll children in school. Fathers can do that. Right? And so in the school line, sometimes it's not even a line for fathers on some forms. Why isn't it a line to put him there? When you go to doctor's appointments, there's not forms sometimes for the father. Why is it not? You know, why couldn't the father be the one to do the dentist appointments and doctor's appointments and things like that? You know, most of the time, the first line you're trying to look is to call the mom. Why wouldn't the father be the first line of defense? And so society has begun to condition us and to wipe out the mom. The nurses, when you have a baby, most of the time they walk in the room and they talk to the mom. What about the dad? He just became a parent like she just became a parent. But he's almost ignored and pushed to the side. It's sexism. He has a voice and concern and care just for this newborn just as much as she does. You know, when you go, most of the time they're going to ask the question directly to the woman, how much milk are they eating now? Why you don't think he know? He made some bottles, you know? How many soiled diapers do they have? And all the questions normally are directed towards the woman. Well, what is he, chopped liver? No, he's the parent. He knows just as much as she knows most of the time, but we ignore his presence and go and shift towards the woman. It's an unconscious bias that we've set ourselves to condition ourselves to, that she's the only one who knows those things. You will run into scenarios where the men don't know, but it's not all the time. And we put ourselves in that way to just ask her, how many diapers they go through a night? Oh, what are they doing now? Any allergies? Well, why wouldn't he know? He might know all that, and she don't know none of it. So making sure that we're aware of that and not falling into that and partaking in that. Last one is ageism. Ageism is prejudice or discrimination on the grounds of a person's age, right? And so we do that, young and old. We've transitioned in the church to ageism so much when the millennials hit. I heard millennials so much. I didn't want to identify as one. I'm like, I ain't raising my hand. Because most of the time, I didn't fit the stereotypes of a millennial. But we began to do that, and we say phrases in the church. Remember, we're dealing with the church. This generation, the younger people, teenagers, and we began to drop those things. Young adults. And most of the time, when we're dealing with ageism in the church, it comes negative. So then we, as the body, become a repellent for them. And they're backing up. And they're backing up. And they're backing up. Because it's not affirmation. It's not edification. It's not bringing forward. I did not want to identify as a millennial for a couple years. I am, but I didn't want to identify as that. Because it came with a negative stereotype. It came with putting you down. It came with such things. So ageism is one of the biggest things we do in the church. We disregard our mothers. We don't want to learn from them. The mothers don't want to be mothers in the church. Come on, sister. You telling the whole truth, right? So we're not trying to respect them. We're not trying to reverence them. The mothers aren't talking with gentle kindness. And this is in the church, right? And so we know that these things exist outside of who we are, but we're the church and we're carrying it. How can we do this different? And that's what we want to journey through the course of the week. Ageism for me, and this is Sister Portia only, is the biggest one I see in the kingdom. You got to be a certain age to minister. You got to be a certain age to serve. Or you can't be this age and we're not going to do nothing with you. You know, and we begin to just really form and condition ourselves. Or only this person at this age can say something to me. Since Portia not old enough, she better be Brother Cliff. If it's Brother Cliff, I'll listen. But if it's Sister Portia, I don't want to hear that. She young. She a single mom. She broke. You know, we began to bring those things in, and the unconscious bias that I'm sharing today is you're not going to say it out loud. You're not going to say it out loud. You're not going to say, Sister Portia, I'm not going to receive from you. You're not going to say that. But what you do is you sit and you turn your ears off. Man, I hope July hurry up. Who's next month? Oh, it's Sister Trina. It's Sister Trina. I'm going to be at Sunday school because it's Sister Trina. We do that to one another, but not knowing God gave Sister Portia the word. And you done missed it because you looked at me through a prejudice of an unconscious bias that millennials don't want God. We do that. I'm studying now alpha gens. Sister Trina talked about it last month. All the levels. These alpha gens is about to blow the world up because they hungry for God, but they're hungry for pure understanding. You're not going to be able to control them under religion. You're not going to be able to control them because your word said it. How you going to prove it to me? But the minute you do, they running with it. The minute you do, they on fire for it. But that ageism, it binds them because we're not wanting to answer the questions. So, but the minute you give them the knowledge that they're seeking, on fire for God. They're superseding where we are. They're not experiencing the trials and tribulations we went through. We will be the trailblazers for them to exercise power and glory at 13. Power and glory at 14. That's what we would do. if we eliminate ageism in the church. And it's going to happen. And you're going to see it with your eyes. To don't think that Shekinah's not carrying your word. She's going to be the healer of your illness. Don't discount her because she's Gen Alpha. You're going to miss her. You don't want to do it, right? Don't discount Novi. The hug, the touch, don't discount it. We don't want to do it. Ageism is the biggest discrimination I see in the kingdom. Okay, so question 1. We're going to have some dialogue. We're going to deal with these things. Have you ever been discriminated against? Yes. Brother Kevin, you wanted to share, or are you just saying yes?
I thought it was not because I was a black man, because I was a Christian, and on my job, when it snowed, everybody when the car got hot,
Okay.
and I'm not a guy to get hot,
Mm-hmm.
and they treated me different because I was different,
Okay.
and they discredited me in a lot of ways. Like they tried to take away my hours, and the guys really wasn't doing nothing. They was getting no more. I had to deal with it.
Yeah.
But God gave me knowledge to how to overcome that.
Amen.
Plus, I knew where it's from.
Yeah.
I knew it was just, they was mostly white, but they wasn't doing it because I was a black man. They was doing it because I didn't want to get high with them.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Still discrimination, right? You in a different group. You ain't in the chiefer group. So they only want to promote the chiefer only. You know, that's that prejudice. It happens. Anybody else want to share? Anybody been discriminated against?
Gold teeth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you don't get to move up in the industry because you don't fit the look.
Yep. Yep. That's a good one. It's happened. And those barriers, though, sis, they're getting tore down, right? And we see it, but we did encounter that. We grew up in that time. That's a good one, Sister Trina.
Thank you, Brother Clarence. When I worked at Sprint, I had just got saved, and we could bring literature to our desk, but when I started reading my Bible, it became a problem. But the person next to me had pornographic magazines, and they didn't say anything to them. It was so challenging for me, and so back then I really had a lot of fight back, so it didn't go so well. And so I had to really, realize what I was doing was being attacked. That was my first indication of spiritual warfare. Then I had a woman call from New York, a white lady, who said that she didn't want a black operator to answer her call. And so my supervisor, who was sitting at the call desk, there were two. We got the black one first. She said, "Are you black too? I don't want you helping me." So my white supervisor came to my desk, plugged in, and finished the call. I almost lost it. So because not only you're validating her racism, and so it was challenging. And so you have to learn what to do, how to navigate through those moments of racism, or else we'll end up playing out the descriptive stereotypes that they put on us.
That is real good. Thank you for sharing. That talks about that Me Too movement. You already had power then, and we were fighting those hurdles back then. Yes, sir. All right, Brother Mark's going to be my last one. I have a timekeeper. Thank you.
He was actually doing that for me, not you. He was looking at you, but he was really talking about me.
Okay.
But I'll be short. When I first got into construction, when I first got into union construction, I was coming from corporate America. I went into a specialized area of construction. It's brick and concrete restoration. So it was a lot of brick and stone masons that were the elitist of the elitist of the Midwest. So I went in as a union laborer, and I got nooses on the job. I understood how they truly felt about black women and what they really thought about me and what they wanted to do to me. But I wanted the trade and the trade more than to make them feel comfortable. So I made them feel just as uncomfortable as they did me by not leaving. They couldn't force me off because my mentality was far superior than theirs. So I forced them to teach me the trade. So basically, I took it from them.
I heard that. I love it. All right, so we have come to a close. I'm going to do planting the seed and then just give us some charge and then be out the way. So planting the seed, Christians should look at prejudice and discriminations from the perspective of both victims and victimizers. We fight and fuss when others discriminate, but often fail to see our own racist and separatist views. We all are prejudiced, yet many times subtly so. We may consider someone an outsider because he or she does not fit into our idea of uniformity. There is no escape from diversity in the real world. If we say that we are members of the body of Christ, then we are part of the most diverse group in the world, yet united by the Holy Spirit. And so as we go throughout the course of this week, our homework that I want us to do is answer the rest of those questions on page 29 and answer them from an honest lens. This is your seed journal, whether you share openly or not. Answer those questions from a sincere place of all those questions. And then as we come back in, we're going to pick up next Sunday with the resources for the seed, because today was us planting the seed.